You are not passionate, you are entitled. I saw a post today complaining that there are too many people studying CS, with hundreds of upvotes. Listen, being passionate doesn't mean anything. Why should anyone give fuck that you are passionate about CS? The people who deserve high-paying CS jobs are not people who are passionate. It's people who are good at computer science. The real passionate people aren't working for FAANG. They're building free, open source, or Libra software. And if you don't know what that means, how can you really say you're passionate? So if you're so passionate, quit waiting for that $100,000 job and join them. If you are passionate about CS, real passion, like a starving artist, not whining about oversaturation on this sub, you already know the answer. Live cheaply, live frugally, build good software. People who say, but I'm not like most, I'm passionate, are self-reporting by thinking you're entitled to a high-paying job when you're probably just not that passionate or special. Passion does not indicate competence, but is a good predictor. If you're interested in something, you'd spend more time on it, and that often translates to better skill. But judging people based on passion is weird. It's nice to have, but not a requirement. You can code 9 to 16, go home and don't touch your computer and not have a hobby project, and still be a valuable developer. We don't ask plumbers to have passion in a plumbing hobby project. I actually don't like that it's so normalized and expected of us. This pretty much describes my first 5 to 7 years as a programmer, post-graduation. And a lot of employers don't want someone who is 24/7 into programming and nothing else. People like that are destined for burnout or a nervous breakdown. It's healthier to have interests and hobbies outside of your professional interests. No one likes high achievers, just don't throw it in others' faces. There are plenty of people who are all in and do just fine. It's more so the ones that do it for purely extrinsic reasons that leads to burnout. I'd agree to a job which doesn't require a steep learning curve to get up to speed with the company. For example, an accountant who quit because he is burned out is quite easy to replace. A developer, on the other hand, is more problematic because bringing a new developer up to speed with a specific tech stack and business knowledge is time-consuming. Somebody that isn't passionate about what he does has a higher chance of quitting, as working becomes a source of stress rather than providing energy. Every position in knowledge jobs comes with domain expertise. I just consolidated a bunch of accounting books where the source system had an account type of expense, but the accountants and finance teams were using them as a liability or asset. There is literally no difference in tech stack domain experience in any functional area's domain experience. I agree. I agree to the agree. I agree to agree on agree. I agree to agree on agree over agree. I agree to agree on the agree over the agree under agree. I disagree. I disagree with anyone who disagrees. I disagree to agree with anyone who disagrees. I disagree to agree with anyone who disagrees on agreeing to disagreeing. I agree. For let I equals 0, I less than agree or a. Length, I++. Console.log. Agreed. I'll let you know one thing. It's that I'm both passionate and entitled. I dispassionately agree. Cal Newport turns this on its head by arguing that if you spend enough time to get good at something, you'll get passionate. I've found it's not a bad way to look at the world. I spend a fuck ton swiping on profiles on coming up with interest intros on dating apps. Unfortunately, my skills are still as high. Dating apps are not great for self-esteem. Mostly bots and goofies these days anyway. Maybe try Meetup, https://www.meetup.com/. It's also cyclical. It's hard to be truly passionate for something you suck at and face challenges at every turn. I think the other end of it that is massively understated these days is that if you're talented at something, you will likely get a lot of positive feedback and become passionate about it. Like if you're just born 6'8", strong and fast, and your high school coach begs you to play on his sports ball team and you immediately become the star player because he devotes all his attention to developing his favorite player, you. And of course you're just bigger and faster than everyone and everyone's ears whenever you walk on the field or score, and people you've never met tell you what a great job you're doing when they see you out and about, and half the girls you were crushing on start throwing themselves at you because you're the star of the sports ball team, you might become passionate about sports ball. Now most of those things won't happen if your talent is programming, but the general point still applies. But why do you need projects to start? Sad face. What does that have to do with the post-lol? I'm passionate about writing, music, and art, but I'm pretty crap at it. I have a day job and I have a passion. That's it. I'm not a CS major. I just stumbled upon this thread and the other thread that was mentioned. Exactly, not a CS major. But more time equals more competence for anything, even if you are a natural. LY, too many people are just expecting a 100K plus salary with nothing to back it up. I really don't care if the salary is lower. I want a computer science job. I literally took a job making $3 above minimum wage to get into computer science field. Same. Tired of this whole, you just want 100K out of school mentality. No, I just want an entry-level job, and I don't want FAANG. Get another coping mechanism to explain how shitty the job market is. This one is played out. Also, housing and shit ain't getting any cheaper. If you offer me a job at a location I can live comfortably without owning a car and rent is low, then yeah, I don't need a 100K plus salary. Same here. Does having a $250,000 TCFANG senior dev job sound great? Absolutely. There's no denying that amount of money would be life-changing for most people. Do I care about making the most money possible? Not really. I decided on pursuing CS long before realizing that it paid as well as it does. I'd be happy with a relatively modest 70 to 80K per year job because it's something I love to do. Exactly. I wanted to do coding, computer science since I was little. And with my luck, it became the hardest major job to get. So many of my friends who are passionate in humanities like international relations or STEM in general, like other engineering degrees, are forced to take CS. My parents were the opposite though. Funnily enough, I really wanted to do CS, but they wanted me to do something like mechanical engineering. I had to convince them that CS is still worth doing, and then I found out about how hard CS majors are to get into. Are parents really out there pushing their sons to do CS like it's a prestigious career? A little like it's a prestigious to do, but mostly like if you don't know what to do in uni, then might as well do CS. Modest 80K loudly crying. It really is. As a sophomore intern, I get paid much more than that. At a unicorn. 80K is great for new grads in this market. If you're talking senior dev salary, then sure 80K is low. But FAANG salaries are not the average. In this line, yes, a surgeon making 100K would be considered incredibly low. Literally this, people from the US are spoiled. In my country, seniors get $60,000 yearly gross, with one-bedroom apartments starting at $200,000. That there is passion. Literally, if it involves computers and gets me by, I am happy. If I make a bit more than your average Joe, then all the better. Bro, gender neutrally. I just want a job. It's purely survival. Deleted. Might be a good fit for diversity hire though. Deleted. I swear if FAANG salaries permanently broke people's brains. Every day I am seeing CS majors and even engineering majors acting like 70K a year straight out of college as poverty wages. People even act like $100,000 is poverty on this site. They say because CA is so expensive, they need at least $150,000 200K starting. Greater than people even act like $100,000 is poverty on this site. Every time I venture onto a personal finance sub and see people act like they're living paycheck to paycheck while having a household income of over $250K a year, I'm dumbfounded. The worst is Fatfire. I read a post that said $10 mil net worth feels like poverty in the Bay Area, and they said that without a hint of satire. They can only buy one Land Cruiser a month. Of course they are poor. It's never enough money. Do you get it? The more income you earn, the more you splurge and the more brand conscious you become, hoping strangers will respect and envy you. $100,000 in San Francisco is legitimately not a lot, and, by California's own definition, makes you low income. You take home $70,000, and even with roommates in a cheap apartment, probably like $25,000 of that goes to rent. Then you try to pay for basic things like groceries, transit, furniture, clothes, etc. And that all probably adds up to like $5,000 or $10,000 per year. Which is still fine. You even have money left over, but especially in SF, to make it work, you have to maintain a very constrained budget, including sacrifices like living with roommates and rarely eating out, and you have to be financially responsible. Throw in children or student loan debt though, and suddenly that all evaporates and maybe leaves you accumulating debt. That's probably what most new grads should expect though. You're not immediately going to get the salary that you need to raise a family. 100K in SF is still way more than what most white collars start out at in SF, which is around 80K. I'm not even talking about annual bonus, sign-on bonus, stocks, which most white collar grad in other majors, including engineering, don't have. Just because SF cost of living is crazy expensive doesn't mean you should forget that your salary is still way higher than other people. Because it is. 200K is the mission. Deleted. What is he going to do when he has a girl and kids? Rent a room. That is poverty wages. The economy has drastically changed. Renting a fucking room at 65K is not doing fine. LMFAO. Deleted. My man. Nobody making 65K should need to be renting a room. That's insane. Deleted. Yeah, that sounds like ass. A room for 1K is absolutely insane. I get what you mean that monetarily he's doing well, but living in one room is a miserable experience just for the sheer fact that it's nearly impossible to do anything. But yeah, I get that it's somewhat typical. It's just crazy. I don't really see how 2K for at least a small place to yourself is shooting yourself in the face and being alone and run nowhere on the hamster wheel. I do not get what you're referring to at all. I know I'm making 65K and happy as a clam. I know I can make more in a few years, and I'm content to learn as much as possible in the meantime. It legitimately has people feeling entitled to that salary for doing the bare minimum. I'll be pretty happy if I make 70K when I graduate. Content if I make 60. Would be insane for me right now to be I'm a CS student, and if I get out of college even making 60K, I will be so happy with that lol. I only make about 35K RN with 2 part-time jobs. 70K living in the city is poverty wages in this economy. Studios are $1,600 to $1,800 to live in a closet. No, it's not. There are people who survive in big cities on way less. I've seen people that have made $7,000 a year work in New York. How can you argue that just because someone else lives on less than they are not poor? There are homeless people that make $0 a year and they survive in New York and LA and other cities. They are still poor. Congratulations to the person, for making it work. But that is still considered poverty. If you have to rely on government help and have to live extremely frugally just to survive, then you are poor. It has become so normal to struggle since the middle class is shrin. King. I make 80K full remote during sophomore internship, so that kind of is poverty NGL. Well, that's not a normal situation. Just cause someone theoretically could have it better doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. You wouldn't call a family doctor making 150K a year poverty just cause someone in a higher paid specialty is making 300 to 400K. I feel like 80K a year is pretty average or below average for an internship. Depends on the area, I guess. Most internships around me pay 50 to 60K. If it's an NYC-based company, I'm sure they'll be paying NYC salaries. I don't have data on it, but I'd imagine most people aren't making 80K on an internship, and you only think that way because the people making 60K in some shitty flyover state aren't bragging about it on Reddit. Exactly this. And especially in this sub where you have people bashing others for only making 80K per year, then showing off how they're making 180K at a big tech. Maybe it's just cause I've been various stages of poor all my life, but 70K would still be life-changing for me. Did dumb shit before 25, yo. Anything 55 plus is good. The low end of CS has been 60K for 10 years now. I'm surprised other new grads don't know this. Funniest bit is, they're not worth even a quarter of their big FAANG salary. Their salary is most likely a sinkhole for a company with too much cash to give a shit and completely disconnected and incompetent management, hiring divisions. I'm expecting 50K to 60K max for me. In the Midwest. Yup, my first job, 2 years ago, was exactly 50K in Wisconsin. Actually, it's 200K or 300K salaries these days, rolling on the floor laughing. Don't forget the inflation under Jerome Powell. Most people don't realize chasing your passion instead of going where money goes is a privilege. No comfort is the privilege. You can follow your passion. Just don't expect to get rich or even be able to put food on your table. If you can't put food on the table, then you can't follow your passion. That is not true, but it is for people like you. If the direction of the money isn't where your passion lies, you will be crushed by the competition that has that what you are going to do as an actual passion. I do, and I'm saying a lot of us who have the ability to get a CS degree have that privilege. I'd argue that someone who can get a CS degree has the necessary talent to instead get any one of dozen degrees that will lead into a job that pays well. They have the luxury of deciding to get a job in a field they are passionate about. There are active and growing movements of people who went into CS for the money and feel disempowered because of it. I'd rather people who have the choice between a well-paying and enjoyable career and a well-paying career think about prioritizing the former in their career plans. Passion is the most bullshit word ever. I know this is a CS major sub, but your passion does not have to be your job. I'm passionate about traveling the world and owning a farm in the middle of nowhere, but that isn't going to pay the bills. Exactly. I know so many people who literally just studied CS because they came from low, middle-class backgrounds who wanted to be able to have better for themselves and their families. There's literally nothing wrong with just wanting a job because you need to pay bills. When I see people complaining about college or work peers or generally about people in CS without passion, it absolutely screams, I have never been poor and I don't understand why someone would work very hard to not be poor. I grew up poor as shit. All of my friends were either trailer park kids or even grew up in motels. Yes, I chose CS because I wanted a better life than that, and I worked damn hard to get the degree. I won't have some jumped up entitled shit telling me I was wrong for doing. So, my passion is retiring, which has oddly enough made me quite good at programming. My passion is making fun of people that think that object-oriented programming is something worth studying. I am making bank as a side effect. You write ASM then? Functional programming is the way to go. But you can make your passion your job so that it is more enjoyable, though. Some people hate doing their passion for their job, though. For example, some people love music and go to college for it because they love making music and performing songs they like. Then the only way they can make a living on it is playing songs for other people, songs they don't want to perform. Then they go home and are so tired of playing that they don't have the energy to play what they like and start to hate their passion. Hearing those horror stories is why I decided not to major in music and keep it as a hobby. Not everyone's passions pay the bills, bud. You can make it pay the bills, though. Just buy a farm in the countryside instead, or paying $100K plus on a CS uni degree that you hate and sell the produce from your farm. You may not make $100K plus per year, but you will be happy and have a livable wage. Farm wedding venues make bank. A CS uni degree would be far cheaper than buying a farm. People who say are passionate about their corporate job are just corporate slaves with Stockholm Syndrome. There's nothing wrong with liking your corporate job. Just don't confuse passion for skill. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, but it almost never happens. Every time someone says to me they are passionate about their job, I ask them more detailed questions and it turns out they're not actually passionate, it's just that they think they are supposed to say that. I made a loading process 10 to 100x as fast as it previously was at my corporate job at an insurance company. Automated a lot of the change process, too, because it would otherwise be boring and tedious work. Doesn't that count as passion? I did it partially in my own free time with no explicit instruction to do that. There was no user story did it. I just made my own project and implemented it. A lot of my colleagues are just boomers who wanted to do it the old way because that is how we had to do it. Now I got an opportunity to present that new process to the management team. And we actually contemplate using my newly developed method in production. I actually have a pretty large influence despite being a junior, meteor programmer. If you do something that sticks out, you will get noted and have much better chances at promotion, and you can only do that if you have actual passion. Man, I wouldn't call that passion. I do things like this because it's my job and I want to be valued at my job, so they keep me on if things get tight. If you got fired from your job tomorrow, would you still work on integrating your method in production? Would you take calls from them and work for free after being fired whenever they had an issue? Well done, bro. What I'm saying is that passion is a very strong word, so in most cases it is at least an exaggeration. I would say I like coding, sure, but I would be cautious to say that I'm passionate about it. At the end of the day, 99% of the people who say are passionate about coding would stop doing it if they become rich enough, including me. People should be passionate about noble causes, not about things like coding or painting. That's just lame and fake most of the time, I can smell. That's a pretty dreary worldview. When I was introduced to programming, I knew that was what I wanted to do with my life regardless of money. It's just like people who are passionate about music. There are a lot of us in the field. Passion is what makes you read dense manuals and write code in new languages just to learn it. The field has plenty of room for all types of people. Don't tear down people that happen to have it. But not many people are passionate about doing random business logic for internal service number 4204 and having to do boring tickets all day in an agile workplace. Sure, people are passionate about coding, but passionate about corporate jobs seems far more unlikely. There is no difference between coding and corporate jobs. For me personally, if I lived in an area where the only option was to code business rules, I'd probably have a great time doing it. Every time I test my code and it does what I wanted, I get a dopamine hit. This is regardless of the kind of code or its purpose. If I couldn't scratch my coding itch through work, I would almost certainly move on to personal projects. That's how compelling coding passion is. It's just like with musicians, here they will play regardless of whether they can make money or not. They play for the love of making music. I write the love of writing code. Regardless of how passionate you are about something, you wouldn't want to do it for 8 hours a day. That's why I said corporate jobs, not coding. I don't think you understand what I'm saying. Do you know many musicians? The love of performing makes them play and practice for well over 8 hours a day. This is exactly the same impulse that drives people with passion for coding. You seem to have this notion of what a corporate job is. As long as the application isn't unethical, then it is pure joy. Those of us with passion look upon work as, they are paying me a lot of money to do what I would do anyway. Quote. I will happily code 8-hour essay day every day, and then I will go home and code some more on my own time. That's what passion for coding means, and there are a lot of us out here who are missing the point. And if you think passion can't be your job, you're entirely off the rail. It doesn't have to. Yes, but it can. And when it does, you're going to be ahead of everyone simply because you like it, and you're going to put X10 the effort without complaining. But there's too many people in CS, except for me. I definitely belong here, but everybody else is the problem. The people who are passionate tend to be the ones who are good at computer science, as they put in the most effort. Regardless, people have bills to pay. Working on free software doesn't pay the bills the majority of the time, and you could be passionate about software without being a die-hard free software enjoyer. You don't think for-profit founders were passionate about their projects? You aren't special just because you exclusively work on open-source projects, put stickers on your laptop to this, how your support, and refuse to apply for FAANG because you are too passionate for the salary. I agree that people who are passionate are more likely to be good at their job. My gripe is with people who claim that somehow non-passionate people are ruining the industry via oversaturation and therefore taking their jobs greater than you. Don't think for-profit founders were passionate about their projects? Free software doesn't mean not-for-profit. In any case, that's beside my point, which is that passion is relatively an irrelevant trait. I choose a CS degree because I like programming enough that I'd be happy turning it into a career. If I was told my position was given to a more skilled candidate with less passion, who the fuck am I to say they don't deserve it? That's the rhetoric I'm against here. I see. I definitely wasn't focused on the underlying message about how people with less passion still deserve the jobs as they were more skilled, and got hung up on the OS part. What you said in your reply is absolutely sane. Thanks for clarifying. Greater than the people who are passionate tend to be the ones who are good at computer science, as they put in the most effort. Not really. Those are people with passion and talent. People who aren't especially passionate, but are smart and capable, are just about as good as people who are passionate and smart and capable. Not to mention, like 90% of software development jobs is basically just plumbing, except not for water, sewers, but for data. Get this input to this server, put the response here. Software developers are the most obnoxious people when it comes to talking about the importance or difficulty of their job. It's not rocket science the vast majority of times. And those who do work on actually challenging projects don't write bullshit like the op, or the op of the previous reference post. They just mind their own business and make cool stuff. Most social media and Google started as free software projects started by their founders. And my uncle creates free software, but he also publishes a more comprehensive documentation book for a price and makes money that way. I mean, it's fair to complain about the market being oversaturated. It shouldn't be this difficult to find an entry-level job or internship. You're not stuck in traffic. You are traffic. It's fair to complain about it being oversaturated, but don't complain about the people in your class. They are exactly like you and not to blame. I mean, I was interested in CS way before it became oversaturated. I started taking coding classes back in 2017, and I have always had an interest in computers. Yes, but it doesn't make you better or more deserving than others. It's not a hipster thing where things should be gate-kept based on when you discovered something. Your enemy isn't your fellow students. I was the same as you. Wrote PHP web pages when I was 13, 2001, so before you winking face, and got paid during me teenage years to do dev, and spend lots of my free time doing dev projects. But at work, I'm just as valuable as others not doing all those things. I mean, there are quite literally classifications of people that deserve it more than others. There are ones that get hired because they are good, and the ones who do not. I think it's fair to say that passion in the subject is a strong indicator as to which classification you fall under. But the more saturated the market, the more people that are less passionate and less effective make it through, slowing the whole system down. That's the theory anyway. I have no idea if there's any data to back that up. You can complain about anything. It's a free country. I think it's cringe to blame people who are doing it for the money, though. Money guy spotted. Companies prioritize profits over everything, including training domestic talent. If you want to solve this oversaturation problem, it starts with understanding the economics of it all. I'm going to be real here. If you are good at CS, it isn't that hard to land a junior position. If you are average or below average, I don't know what to tell you. Tough luck, get better. Many other fields are just like this. Just because our jobs were on extremely easy mode for the past 2 decades, doesn't mean we deserve some special treatment where the shittiest devs deserve a 6-figure salary. The job market isn't oversaturated. It used to be undersaturated and just came up to a normal level. It can be hard to get interviews even if you're good due to the thousands of applicants for most positions. If you are really good at what you do, you probably don't need an interview to show that. You are really good at CS. Chances are you have the resume and GitHub to back it up. And before you misunderstand me, there is nothing wrong with being average. You just shouldn't expect above average treatment for nothing. But you're also competing against hundreds of other people with a resume, GitHub. Dude, if you are really skilled, insert field here, dev, and you can't get an entry-level job, you are probably not a really skilled, insert field here, dev. That's just the reality of the situation. And the market is going to wax and wane. In the space industry, many boomers are retiring and we are struggling to replace them. There's a huge skill gap now because of their past hiring policies. Now, we are taking on a lot of interns and have shifted towards policies that turn interns into long-term employees. I heard there's a similar problem in banks, but I can't confirm. I didn't have a difficult interview process. No coding challenge, just 2 interviews in my resume. How easy should it be exactly? How are you defining how easy it should be? Well, I've applied to like 100 different internships and have only gotten 3 interviews, 2 if you only count internships that are directly related to CS. The interview rate shouldn't be 2% for internships. I just read the other post. It's this one, https://www.reddit.com/r/CSMajors/comments/1btch/there_r_two_majors/closing parenthesis, right? That post doesn't say anything about passionate engineers deserving a high-paying CS job. It says that too many people in CS are in this major for the wrong reasons. I have mixed feelings about the importance of passion in this major. I don't think that you have to be passionate about computer science as a discipline itself, or even the industry side of things, but thrive on solving difficult problems. That other post talks about people who are enthusiastic about computers in and of itself. But you can hate anything related to computer internals, so long as you are enthusiastic about some aspect of analytical problems related to computing. I believe that you can find success in this major. This whole thing about passion reminds me of how education systems approach the word talent. Talent in some people's eyes is natural affinity towards some discipline, but most talent programs recruit not for that but their enthusiasm and grit towards excellence in said discipline, which, like your post is saying, is really all that matters. Exactly, it's the wrong reasons. My sister literally just started a second master's in IT with a focus in SE, and she earns almost $200K in her current job. Her primary reason? Money. What did she do before? Yeah, I don't even think it takes a love for engineering to do well if you are hardworking, TBH. Obviously, it is much easier to avoid burnout if you are, but yeah. Respectfully, that poster did have a point. I graduated high school in 2018, and at that time there were 2 directions that almost everyone was told to go in: engineering or computer science. I saw so many people who knew nothing about computers go into CS and end up failing out. So, I think their post was poorly worded. But it is true that there is far too much societal pressure on young people to study CS right now. This is fair. I think that poster could have worded things better. I feel like there's a massive straw man argument on this sub saying, you need to stop thinking you're entitled to a high-paying job. No. That's not the issue. Nobody is thinking that. We just want any job in the field, which is extremely difficult to get. It's definitely louder in this sub, but there are plenty of people with that mindset, and in no way the non-passionate people to blame for the difficult job search. This is just as stupid as the gatekeeping post. Your passion is only real if you build open source software. Is fucking clown shit, dog. People need to eat. Open source software doesn't pay the bills unless it really blows up and people donate to you. Big floppa laying down straight facts. I was in that thread, and yes, I was discouraging people from joining CS if they weren't passionate about it. There's nuance there. You don't need to be passionate about CS itself. you need to at least embrace CS as something that lets you do something else. It's a tool. Few companies are actually involved in pure tech and require pure passion because the business use case is many steps away. Everything else is using CS to achieve some other business result where you can be passionate about Hat business. How do you know you're passionate? Go write some code to solve a problem in your life. If at the end, if you are done and get a sense of satisfaction of the code you wrote, that's enough. You don't need to love the process of writing code, but you shouldn't be afraid to touch it or discuss it after you solve the problem. If you hate writing code for something you enjoy doing, you're going to hate it even more when you are solving someone else's problem. I think it's well-meaning to try to get people out of a field they won't enjoy. I think we agree for the most part. I too would discourage someone from joining CS if they weren't willing to put in the work and constantly be learning. My problem lies when people who work hard but aren't passionate are blamed for the current issues with the landscape. As someone about to graduate, I can say I feel comforted by all the obviously non-passionate people who literally did nothing outside of class, like they just say, "Oh, I don't know Python." Very clear in the group's senior design projects who has built software and who has just turned in assignments for DSA class. You're conflating passion with motivation. I too am comforted by the people in my classes who are clearly not motivated enough to learn outside of class. I guess so, but from what I've seen from my peers, those two are quite closely correlated. Yes, but correlation is not causation. The cause for that motivation may be due to passion, or money, or a combination of both, or neither. The fuck is wrong with saying, "Oh, I don't know Python"? You just don't know Python. Are you under the impression that you can Google yourself into writing good, solid, bug-free, optimal, extensible code in Python if you aren't familiar with it? The job I have literally had a Scala component. It's a language I never touched. I told them that it would be extremely slow and very inefficient if I just jump on this task. What I'm saying is these classmates have never attempted anything outside of class, and we don't learn Python in our curriculum. Obviously, this didn't apply to everyone. It was a specific example I've heard from a few people. Yes, I think you can Google yourself into writing passable Python code. I think the word passion gets thrown around a lot and different people all interpret it poorly. You could be passionate about software and love working with it without being passionate about your job. It's two completely different things. Greater than the real passionate people aren't working for FAANG. They're building free, open source or Libra software. And if you don't know what that means, how can you really say you're passionate? While passionate people may not care about salaries and just want to work on something interesting, something to take note of is that if you are doing stuff like us, you could land a job at FAANG pretty easily. I would say that I enjoy working with software and I really couldn't care less about working at FAANG and just want a solid livable wage, good WOB, and working on stuff I actually want to do. There's nothing wrong with chasing money, but it's kind of funny how upset some people get when passion is mentioned. Just because someone enjoys what they do doesn't mean it's BS because you just want to do it for the money. Greater than there's nothing wrong with chasing money, but it's kind of funny how upset some people get when passion is mentioned. Just because someone enjoys what they do doesn't mean it's BS because you just want to do it for the money. Respectfully, I think you've completely missed my point. I'm saying that passion is not a replacement for skill. Not that there's something wrong with doing CS for the money. I do agree to an extent you need to like programming, SWE at least a little to be successful, but it's really irrelevant to what makes you good or employable. The rhetoric I am against is that non-passionate people are ruining the landscape simply because they don't enjoy it as much. That's entitlement. Greater than the rhetoric I am against is that non-passionate people are ruining the landscape simply because they don't enjoy it as much. That's entitlement. This just sounds like someone trolling and trying to gatekeep, the way I see it. The people that make it will do it and pull through passion or not. It really doesn't matter, and the comment I made was more directed at the people that believe passion just isn't a thing. Although, I do think that anyone going the extra mile will go way further than some. One doing the bare minimum in the former does seem to be people who like doing it, or in other words, passionate. Greater than this just sounds like someone trolling and trying to gatekeep, the way I see it. The people that make it will do it and pull through passion or not. I mean, maybe they were trolling, but that post is hot right now at 200 plus upvotes. And I believe some agreeing comments even exceed that. I totally believe that passion is a thing, and I think it's a great thing, but at the end of the day, it doesn't have any real meaning if you don't have the skills to back it up, especially in the context of job search. Don't ask for a quality career with good benefits. Work for free instead, bruh. When did I say work for free? The vast majority of open source software creators get paid very little or nothing for their work. Free software doesn't mean non-commercial or that you cannot be compensated. Yes, obviously, but there's basically two options. One, you can build a whole company around it, the Terraform approach, but often companies aren't truly open source, or often are not usable without other non-open source products. And I would question how this is any more noble than building any other company like you claim. At the end of the day, you're selling software or the tools surrounding it for money. And if you're not building a company around it, then you may get a few hundred in tips, donations, but you'll still need a day job. Even people who develop software that's central to an entire ecosystem, Brew, Unicorn, etc., still have day jobs. So even if there is nothing stopping you from getting paid, it's rare. Again, I ask you to point out, where did I advocate against pursuing a high-quality career with good benefits, or that you should work for free? Yeah, and the people who suck ass and aren't passionate should be the least of anyone's worries. What really boggled my brain about that post was him complaining that PPL aren't interested in CS until they come to university. That I wasn't born into an environment where my 10-year-old self could just stumble upon programming accidentally? The superiority complex is just absolutely insane. We're living in 2024. Programming is a good skill to have regardless of if you're passionate or not, like cooking or knowing how to fix your own car. Literally, who is being hurt by the general population becoming more knowledgeable and aware of computer science? This field dictates every aspect of modern human life. So tired of hearing about FAANG and six figures. I'll happily do the job for $60K in some little no-name shop in my town and be ecstatic to do it. What I don't want is to graduate and get a job at Starbucks serving coffee. Most of the passionate people somehow still manage to be asset coding. Why don't they understand passion doesn't mean shit if they're not actually meant for it? Starving artists aren't starving because they're passionate. They're starving because it's extremely difficult to make money with art. That is not the case with CS. The whole concept of the starving artist is someone so passionate about their art they make tremendous sacrifices to devote themselves to their passion. If someone is going to say, I'm so passionate about CS, it's not fair that these higher-skilled non-passionate people are saturating the market. They clearly are more passionate about the money than CS. Yes, and it's because it is so hard to make money in the arts that these sacrifices are made. You think that artists would actually choose not to make money from their art if they could? No, but that's all that's available for them until their work sells. It is trivially easy for someone to make at least a living with CS, especially if you're passionate about it, as that would imply you at least know what you're doing. Are you going to be Zuckerberg? No, but you'll be able to afford a decent place and food to last you through the week. You even get the same complaints from artists that you do from these passionate CS grads. Artists who are able to effectively monetize their work are labeled as fake. It's really toxic. That doesn't just have to be someone making millions from galleries, by the way. It can just be someone churning out sticker art on Fiverr. And the only reason is that they're salty their art isn't selling in the same way. To suggest that you can only be passionate about anything you need to live frugally and dedicate yourself to it is absurd and harmful rhetoric. Which is not wrong. If you can do the job, you should get compensated for it. Whether you are passionate or not should not matter. Nobody eats passion. Okay, thanks for your input. Really valuable. Good ratio. Your example make me kind of smile. It's like saying, if you're passionate about basketball, why would you try to get into NBA? Just play on the streets or the nearby gym. Let's deliberately set the money aside for a moment. Big tech, in the broad sense, works on some of the most complex and interesting problems in various domains, e.g. AI, cloud infrastructure, novel operating systems, database engines, and hyperscale storages. Why would a person passionate about CS not want to work on Big tech employs a lot of really smart and driven people you can learn from and grow. Why would you avoid that? Now let's talk about Linux kernel as the most famous example of open software. You realize that like 85 to 90% of its code is being written by people working for large corporations, right? Been this way for many, many years. It's not 1995, dude. It's 2024. Sure, Linus, GKH, and maybe few other legends out of the foundation, and many are Red Hat, but a lot of very fundamental RK in the kernel is being done by people working in many big tech companies. You are not passionate until you are willing to do it for free. Study the blade, simple as that. Bruh, Some people just want a job regardless of the salary. In this economy, they will happily accept a $60K offer. I won't say they are entitled. They are passionate about not starving to death. I'm very passionate about Italian food. Mamma mia. I literally just want a job, bro. I'm passionate about not being in poverty. I would guess that the majority of people working high pay aren't passionate about their job. People who are passionate about their job are very lucky to be able to do something they love every day. But it's definitely the minority of people, and there's nothing wrong with having a job just to pay the bills. I mean, at the end of the day, that is why we work. Yeah, it sucks that the job market is so oversaturated right now, but let's stop being mad at each other when we're all just trying to do the same thing at the end of the day. People talk about passion, and the only passion I have is for survival. If they can read, they'll be mad at you. Chat, what does Libre mean? It's a tampon company, full score. Shout out to all the open source and free software people who have been maintaining their projects. https://xkcd.com/2347/ closing parenthesis since forever. I am passionate and I build open source software, LMAO. Why are all these posts so aggressive, LMAO? I always laugh at the ones who are like, I built computers as a kid. What does shoving a graphics card into a computer have to do with React hooks? React hooks. Look, I understand what you mean. But for us who love coding since child, seeing all these kids crying because they can't get the 100K job they want and being depressed about it annoyed us. Like, a lot of people go into CS but hate to code and everything about it, only in the field for the promise of big money, and think that they wasted tons of money and times for nothing after a few months of rejection does annoy who actually care. Also, saying that people who passionate don't do side project is dumb AF. Most of the people I know who love this field would code on their free time doing side project as hobby. I do it too. If company ever lower the salary to the likes of other field of work, I'm 100% sure the passionate one will still stay while most of the rest will just cry. I'm 30 years old, wasted my entire high school years, late 20s gaming, barely got my diploma. Now doing my first year in CS, went to a web dev bootcamp prior to getting into college. I just wanted to learn to code because of all the crazy shit going on in software. Bitcoin, Nixos, Rust. I had to get in, I want to contribute to everything. While in the bootcamp, all people talked about was the money nonstop, and I kept bringing up how badass Nixos and other technologies like Terraform were. A project I did out of the gate was an image generator using OpenEye's API. No one could believe that I just started the bootcamp, but what I was astounded by is that no one who was in the bootcamp even looked up the curriculum before getting in. All they talked about was which programming language was the best and how much money they were going to make once they got out of the bootcamp. I think I am the only person to come out with anything on GitHub from the bootcamp class, and I am going to get my CS degree because I want to learn low level and just need a bit of guidance, but I honestly don't think I or anyone even needs school. Learn CS and or how to program because the internet is badass, and if you learn to code you will be too. Hey, 21F sitting in the college bathroom. Thanks for this comment. It really made my day much better. My whole life I have been a gamer, but I am always trying to balance video games with the rest of my life. Being diagnosed with bipolar recently, I am beginning to see that mental illness is another chronic obstacle course in the way. But I am happy to know that you are who you are, because I struggle with the idea of money, being raised in an upper middle class family and leaving my family at 18. They were trying to get me involved in things I didn't want to do, so I moved far away. Now I am poor. There is something lucrative about the tech industry. For me, I can't really see myself in any other field at this point. But there absolutely is so much more to computer science than programming and big dollar signs. Since I've been in university, I have been going down an AI track and minoring in neurobiology. That definitely encouraged me to get back on track and learn outside of school. Even though some weeks, I genuinely feel like my brain is mush and I can't do much but just ride the wave. Have a good day. Deleted. Okay, chill dude. I never told anyone to delete themselves.